Hi, this is Holly Beatty, Joyful Warrior, Spirit Initiated Shaman. Today is day 6 of the Shaman and You Shaman Training Sneak Peek. I've been telling stories that come from my own experience as a shaman, as somebody that has been able to see on the other side of the veil since childhood and providing a little context for how a shaman training might go with me. I'd like to share with you today a story that really puts into perspective the challenge that we all have when we are being guided to live a spiritual life, a life that is full of spiritual guidance and subtle communication where we are receiving and listening to spiritual guidance and the impulses of our soul and the changes in our perceptive capacities that come with this. And also at the same time, living in what we call the real world or the ordinary reality, um, you know, the concrete experience that we have. And more than that, sort of the programming, if you really want to get into it, the programming that we've been given as soon as we're born, and the conditioning that we have that is so deep, which doesn't really give us in any culture on earth right now, does not really give us the spiritual kindergarten that we're all meant to receive, so that we're received as light beings from the very beginning, both with the connection to nature and also the inspiration of the heavenly realms within us. Even indigenous cultures have broken uh, wisdom, and all cultures are meant to evolve. We were never meant to stay, in the consciousness of 300, 500,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. We're not meant to stay in the consciousness of the past. We're meant to progress and to continue to evolve in our ability to hold more light. And so it's not a matter of going backwards or trying to be what we were when we lived in indigenous ways that were unbroken. It's about remembering the wisdom from the indigenous times before the mind became insane and separated from the soul, and also be in this world now with that consciousness and with this connection. It's a journey we're all on. In this story, I am in my early 20s. It's probably from 19 to 22. I am just finishing college, 1994 to 1996. And it just so happened, I graduated high school in 1990. It just so happened that instead of graduating college in 4 years, around my fourth year in college, I got a job at the Sacramento Bee after doing an internship there. And that put me on a slower path for graduation from college at Sacramento State with a degree in journalism, government. But I was working at the newspaper, and then I would leave and I would mix in going to classes, and it just went a lot slower, as you can imagine. Uh, so this is a kind of an exciting time for me in my life. I'm not living at home anymore. I'm an ambitious writer. I have visions for myself at this age, being a foreign war correspondent or a writer for the White House. And I was filled with these ideas from my college courses of the journalists that were the crusaders and helped truth emerge in challenging situations and political environments. And this was sort of my ambition as a young professional college girl. And so I was really excited when I got the internship at the Sacramento Bee. And the internship that I got was for the features department. So I was hired to write stories about teenagers in the area, their personalities, personality profiles. You know, when you open up the features section or a special magazine insert, you would see stories about people in the community. I guess you don't really have that anymore. This was before newspapers were online. But in any event, I also, yes, I had to write obituaries, which was a very delicate task, actually. And then I wrote about senior citizens in the same way. So it was fun, you know. What was interesting about my the logistics of my job was that during the day when I would go into work, there wasn't any place to sit in the department that I was working in features because all of the reporters were at their desks. So every desk in the newsroom had a special kind of computer. It wasn't like a laptop. We didn't use laptops. And it wasn't just like a normal Macintosh or IBM. They were special kinds of computers that you just wrote your stories on. And then, you know, the newspaper would actually print out these long strips of the words, and then they would literally physically take them and put them on a piece of paper exactly how it needed to be organized. And then a picture would be taken, and that would be what would run on the newspaper. It's really a process that was beautiful in a lot of ways and much easier once the ability to organize the newspaper on Macintoshes actually with PageMaker. I mean, I'm just kind of going into the story a little bit because I spent a lot of time at the newspaper at this time. And when you're a reporter, you work and you work and you work on deadline. So you could have to write all night. You have to have crazy hours. And so there's a lot of time when you're just in your own mind when you're a writer. For me, that's how I experienced it when I was a young reporter and also going to school for journalism. A lot of time spent just in the inner world. Yeah, researching and talking to people, and also letting it all sink in. And then being a sifter and a filter and a storyteller. So something started to happen when I was in this process of learning how to be a writer and learning how to work all kinds of crazy hours that was needed in my field and be alone a lot and ask for inspiration, because that's the other part of being a writer is you're asking something from the inside to help you see how to bring what you have gathered and express it. It's soulful art, really, writing is. I, at this time, also started to see auras. It was, yeah, it was this time where I was alone and in this creative process, asking for the continual next word for whatever story I was writing, that I started seeing auras. First around plants in the night sky, actually. At night, I would see this glow. And then the electrical energy that was like fuzzy and glowy and dancing around plants closer to them, not as far away. It started like with auras of plants being just so far away from them. But I don't know if have you ever seen that? The impression that like a forest can make against the night sky of its energy field. It's a way to see the shimmer world, the world that's always shimmering, that's vibratory. In any event, this started happening for me about this time. And it also was a time where I started hearing drumming in my mind. So I couldn't sit in the features department most of the time. So I sat in the department for the sports writers because they were always out at an event covering their beat, with note taking at the particular game or something that they were covering. And then they would come in and they'd quickly type something up and then they would go out again. And especially at night, there would be a lot of places that I could sit in the sports section. So I started sitting in the sports section, and that got me connected to the sports guys, the writers. And I found out that there was a gym underneath the newsroom, like the basement. It took me a number of months working there before I actually was told that there was like a gym down below. But I also learned that where a lot of the sports guys at the time, there was really only men writing sports in that newspaper department. They would go down and they would work out and lift weights also in the basement during their shift on and on, off and on. So I went down there as well. I started hanging out with the sports guys basically and doing what they did. And I found this basement and I started getting on the treadmill while I was asking for the next sentence or paragraph or whatever it was in my story. I'd take breaks and when I was on the treadmill in the basement in the dark with the little glowy sort of the lights down there were sort of odd and flickery and cast shadows on the wall. Day or night, I started hearing drumming in my mind, inside my head. When I was walking on the treadmill, I'd hear drums. It got to where it was inspiring, like I liked the feeling of it. This was over months of time. And because of the drum, my pace started to pick up. I'd always been a little bit of a runner. I liked running since I was really young. And so even though I wasn't really trying to work out because I was at work, in clothes I didn't want to get all sweaty. Like it wasn't supposed to, for me, be a workout. I started getting into it with the sound of the drum. And then I started looking forward to going to work and writing and running on the treadmill and listening to the drumming in my mind. it was a great way to work. It stopped me from drinking, I'm sure, many more cups of coffee. That's also something that I did a lot at that time in the newsroom. That was pretty a classic thing to do. Coffee breaks. So instead of doing that, I was going on running breaks and listening to a drum that nobody else could hear in my mind. And after a few months of doing this, something else started to happen. The white eagle that I spoke of in the last sharing yesterday, the white eagle, started to come. And it would be like a towering figure in front of me, not flying up in the sky, but having a smaller frame, but still like maybe 7 foot tall, and just staring right at me. And this was interesting to hear the drumming and now also see a spirit bird, a white eagle, in front of me in this basement. I did see the spirit bird one more time after the fire hydrant experience when I was a child, and I'll share that story. But I hadn't seen the bird since that time, since around 13. So at this time when I'm 19, I'm surprised to hear drums and to see this white eagle. Well, if that wasn't weird enough, the eagle started to shapeshift. The eagle started to shapeshift into an eagle headdress, a white eagle headdress that was sitting upon the crown of a Native American man who was staring at me. So it would kind of go like running, drumming. There's the bird, there's the man. There's the bird, there's the man. And it just kept flipping, flipping. You didn't say anything. He never did at this time. It was just this continual rhythm and connection. So that was the first time that I learned that the white eagle was also a spirit of a man that could shapeshift. And that for some reason was wanting to connect and communicate with me, and do so a lot every day when I was working. The auras got stronger. The auras got stronger. The chakras started to pop out. Colors started to swirl. Everything I looked at, everyone I looked at, started to be glowy. I remember in my classes, I would kind of daydream and not really hear the professors anymore because I was just watching their aura or looking at their chakras as they walked across the room while they were lecturing. And it became hard to see life as solid. I had an experience of vertigo starting to develop. I would look at something and then there would be this kind of like if you were to have an opening emerge right in front of you, like a portal, and then it would sort of like when you throw a stone into a pond and it ripples, but the stone is being cast into the space in front of you, and then everything is rippling in the air in front of what you're seeing. it was like that. It was like nothing was solid, everything was vibrating, and there was all of these ripplings happening when I was driving, when I was talking to people, trying to interview them for a story, or uh, you know, trying to date, trying to meet somebody at school and go on a date or something. It was just, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. It was also fantastical. I felt so held by something mysterious and magical, and comforted by the spirit bird, because um, a story that I haven't shared yet in this platform, but I will share, um, connects the bird to a time in my life at 13 where I had to make a critical decision that saved my life, and the bird helped me do that. The angelic consciousness behind this spirit that shapeshifted into a bird and also into a Native American man helped save my life when I was 13. So in this moment, I'm comforted that he's there. And I'm intrigued that I'm learning that the bird is also a man, and a Native American man. It's amazing. And I feel, a little bit special, like, because I know that I haven't had other conversations with people about this sort of thing. And, when you're young, you want to feel like life has in store for you all kinds of specialness, all kinds of unfolding and, auspiciousness, that, you're going to meet the most amazing person, you're going to have the most amazing opportunities, and life is going to unfold in ways that are mysterious and magical and amazing. And I was also very ambitious. I've been writing for newspapers since a junior in high school. I knew that I wanted to go through the process of what it took to prove in the sort of regular world that I had what it took to be a successful newspaper reporter that other people would respect and admire and trust. I had that feeling for a lot of the reporters at the Sacramento Bee, reporters like Stephen Maganini, who's still one of my best friends. He was a investigative reporter there for years and years. And I was lucky enough to work under him as a researcher for a time. He broke stories open, he brought truth to light. I wanted to do that. So I didn't want to be different. And I also thought I was going crazy a little bit, actually. So this is just all leading up to me sharing with you how one day when I'm on deadline, I'm not in the basement. I'm outside and I'm staring at a tree and I'm looking at its aura and all the colors shimmering, and I can see all the dancing God particles of light that are standing the form of it upright. And I go into my heart and I ask it all to go away. I say to God, even though I don't really know at that time how I believe in God, I don't know what my relationship is to what I've heard is God. I ask God and life and the bird to go away. And I just say, I pray, I can't live this way. I don't know who to talk to about this. I don't know how to function and put my mind towards the tasks that I need to, when I'm always enveloped by this beauty, but that's not real for me, doesn't connect with the way that other people see the world. And I don't know how to keep going like this. If I had been a little less ambitious, I may have gone and asked for help as to how to navigate it, like maybe at a bookstore, or try to find a book or something on auras. But at that time in my life, I I found my spiritual connection running outdoors, uh, nature, really, and going to church with my family on Easter and Christmas, maybe, uh, for my grandparents' sake. And it's very disconnected, really. My father had been, at the time, he had created a company, was very successful, something that he did from his own bootstraps and studying, to learn computers. And he became very well off and very respected and successful from hard work. And I had just moved from his house to, stepping out on my own. And he was my hero at that time. I wanted to be like him. He'll probably laugh if he listens to this, because, he wouldn't have known that, because I was interested in, my politics were different than his, and the things I cared about and studied were different. But the drive that he had to bring his courage to life and bring value to other people's lives, which he did through his expertise in computer networking, which was really big at the time. So I had a taste for ambition and drive and being a self-starter. And all of this spiritual stuff was getting in the way. It's getting in the way of me being normal. And I didn't want it. I didn't want it in my life. So, yeah, I asked it all to go away. And actually, it did. It did. Actually, that day, I made a wish. I asked for it to go away, and the spirit was listening to my inability to hold it all at that time, and it receded. It started to recede. If I tried to see auras, because I would test it, I could still kind of get a peek, but it wasn't really glaring at me wherever I looked all the time. It's actually never been like that again, which is kind of sad for me now. But I I see I see auras and chakras now fully, but in a different way. And I'll talk about that. It's actually much better the way I see chakras and auras and energy fields and all of that now, because I can go into a place of deeper connection with the drum, where I can perceive that just the same as I did when I was in my 20s, early 20s. But it's not just happening all the time, so I can't drive, or every now and then it pops out a little stronger when I'm supposed to really see something. But there's a way to work with the visual gifts of perceiving all that is and not be overwhelmed by it and still have access to it. That's a part of shaman training with me. It's a part of what I teach. At this time, I don't know any of those techniques. I just know that I need to, get my homework done and write the stories, and I want to go party at night, So it all went away. It all went away until the age of 23. So it wasn't really gone forever. I had a car accident when I was 23. I'll talk about that another time. In that experience, I had a renewed connection with visual spiritual perception differently. So something awakened in me with that experience as a way to help save my life. So I think what's helpful to talk about with this story, I like to teach and what I call a just-in-time learning. So it's like when you've earned the insight, then you're ready, you're ripe to receive it. That's why in life we have to have so many different peaks and valleys, because it's in these different peaks and valleys that we have this inner alchemy happening, where we become, if we're open, ripe for our next aha, which is how life teaches, through the greatest compassion and love, letting us feel what's real and true through our experiences, right? Well, we also can have that through story, through allegory from others' lives. And in this moment, I hope that you can see with me that part of the journey that we're all on is accepting that there's more to life than what we can see with our normal vision, with our normal way of perceiving reality. And part of our journey is accepting this and learning how to function within reality as more than just space and physical stuff. There's a tree, and then there's space, and there's a drum, and then there's like stuff, and then there's, actually there is no nothingness. Everything is in effulgence of consciousness, nested systems, holonic systems, where the microcosm is the macrocosm, like the nested egg. And everything is fractal in that way. Can say a lot about the nature of the universe. If you are looking to embrace your spiritual sight, to be able to perceive chakras and auras and to know what that's all about, and not have it be a mystery, and also not just read about it in a book. Okay, I'm going to look up the root chakra and the book's going to tell me what the root chakra is about. No, books can tell you universal patterns of things, but they can't tell you what something means for you. Same goes true for like spirit animal cards or, oracle decks. There can be patterns, and they can be helpful at times, clues. But to really understand something, you've got to go into it with your own consciousness listening. And you have to make connection directly with it from your center, from the center of where you can perceive everything, which is your heart, which is what the word shaman means, to see with the heart. It is the right word. It is the right orientation. We are all meant to become shaman. It's a part of our natural human evolution to be spiritual, informed, colorful expressions, love. If you're interested in learning more about how to see auras and chakras and within yourself to connect directly with what seeing and perceiving them means for you, and what they're also like, what the chakras are about, and the aura too, then this might be a training for you. Because I spent a lot of time especially in the first level, sensual sight, breaking down how to perceive, how to actually go into the consciousness of the chakras and perceive from each of them. It's somatic shamanism. It's real. It's not shamanism that's practiced in a way that takes us through neurotoxins in our brains, which all psychedelic substances are. They're all neurotoxins that on some level are putting us into a crisis state, a physical crisis state. You can read more about this from Medical Medium, or there's another great book that I love. It's called In Place of Self. I forget the author's name. In Place of Self. I recommend that book wholeheartedly. But both of those resources only showed me later what I could perceive myself directly. I will never share with you something that I pick up just secondhand and trust blindly. The experience of psychedelics, putting the body in a physiological crisis state, causes the soul and the light body, the ether body, the etheric body to move out of the physical. And when we do that, we have an experience with the spiritual world because it's a mini death. In a way, we are dying, but not all the way, not fully, right? So in those substances, each of them work in different ways. I talk a lot about this in the shaman training. There are ways that those substances, that those plant medicines can be used, but to think that that is shamanism is ignorant. It is dangerous. It is a blind path that leads to a dead end. In order to evolve your soul, which is what we are all here to do, we must be conscious, fully ensouled, with our light in our body and our heart open to our fullest essence, our highest essence coming through as who we are in this world. While we have a body, it's not about getting out of our body. It's about ensouling the body and enlightening the earth that is been given to us as our vessel. That is how we move forward in our soul's progression. It doesn't happen by going out of the body to have a spiritual experience. That is what we have when we are not in a body. And that's not what we're here to do. However, because this place is denser than we are, the material dimension is denser than we are. Sometimes, and in previous times in our evolution, the substances have been able to help us grasp something that maybe we could not directly do. So I'm not saying as a blanket statement that it's all bad. I'm just saying that it's a false path. And it's not what shamanism really is. Real shamanism is about what's going on inside the heart and the mind of the shaman and their connections with the spiritual realm and the support and assistance that they have from the spiritual realm because they've earned the respect and trust with the goodness within their soul, with the truth and the beauty within their soul, with the honesty of their character and the reverence that they have for life. Love is what opens the door, not going out of your mind. This is the shamanism that I teach. It is real shamanism. And I apologize if it sounds weird coming from me, because it may not be in the package that you may be expecting, or maybe it's in the exact right package that you need. All I can tell you is that I'm friendly and I'm approachable and I'm a real shaman. And you are too. You're on your way to evolving yourself into somebody that can see with your heart and all of your chakras, and somebody that can see auras of other people and all of their chakras. And that's just a part of our natural faculty that we lost because we didn't get to have our spiritual kindergarten. So that's a part of what this is too. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story about a moment for me in my young life where I chose to not go into a spiritual direction when there was so much spiritual gifts being given to me, and I pushed it away. And I hope that somehow touches you and that you can relate. I'm sure that if you've listened to me thus far and all of these different stories, that maybe you too have had from time to time or in your younger life, or maybe even right now, moments where you just feel afraid of embracing all of life, all of the mystery, all of what is. And you'd just like to, have a consistent job, have some feeling of being of service, of value, having a lot of money as much as you can, a great partner, family, all of the stuff, all the trappings, all the conditioning, all the programming, all of what we think it's all about. But it's not what it's all about. We can have all of that, but that's not what it's all about. So if you want to learn what it's all about, keep listening. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Holly Beatty, Joyful Warrior. See you.